Hi, I'm excited to be here today to be able to talk to Alissa, Dr. J. Abdullah, who is Mastercard's Deputy Chief Security Officer. And in this role, she leads the emerging corporate security solutions team and is responsible for protecting Mastercard's information assets as well as driving the future of security. So, Dr. J, I hope you're okay. I'm going to call you Dr. J through the rest of this. You have such a wonderful background, and we're so glad that you could join me today with CRI during Cybersecurity Awareness Month. The couple things that I'd like to highlight about your background is that you joined Mastercard in 2019. You were the Chief Information Security Officer at Xerox, where you led a huge corporate program. But I think the one thing that you and I have in common, which is exciting, is that you also worked at the Executive Office of the President, where you helped really modernize IT systems for the federal government doing cloud services. And then what's really cool about what you do now is that you host a cybercrime magazine, Mastering Cyber and CISOs podcast. So you are into everything, and I just really am excited to be able to interview you today. And so I was hoping you could share some opening comments with our audience.
Thank you, Karen. So it's so good to see you again and be able for us to do something together. You know, I have a passion for SMBs. It's a commitment that we have, and in fact, part of Mastercard's commitment to help our customers as we protect our business, help customers protect their businesses from threats today and tomorrow. And I'm hoping that today, everything we give and we talk about really underscores some free resources, how critical SMB cybersecurity is, and that SMBs truly have a partner between the Cyber Readiness Institute and Mastercard and the things that we've put together in this partnership.
Well, I'm excited with the partnership that we have with you. And every time I have the opportunity to interact with you, I learn something new. So I want to be able to share this with those who would be listening with us today, especially our SMB audience. So I think to kick things off, it would really be great if you could give an overview of how you see what the threat landscape looks like for small and medium businesses, and what are some of the key challenges they are facing today.
So SMBs end up being targets. I want to start there because they lack a lot of the resources. It's just because they're just smaller than, big corporations, big businesses. But the key thing, and the thing that the adversary knows, is that SMBs can be a gateway to larger organizations. We partner together all the time. And because bad actors have more resources, the attacks are moving and evolving so fast for SMBs that they are just sometimes difficult to keep up with. So when we think about that and we think about it and frame it in the way of looking at small and medium-sized businesses, the cybersecurity technology can be daunting. Just to rip the Band-Aid off and say, what do I do? That's just a big, heavy lift. Laws and regulations, they're changing all the time and putting more responsibility on organizations to really be cyber ready. So that's where I think the foundation of the key challenges start with. And I want to, hopefully we can double click on that and talk about that a little bit more today.
Well, and I appreciate that insight and really talking about these challenges facing small and mid-sized businesses. And so we talk about the partnership between Mastercard and the Cyber Readiness Institute. What do you look at? What are some of those actionable steps they can take when it seems almost too daunting because I have to use technology. I'm going to use technology as a small business or a medium business. So what do you think are some of those actionable steps that they should take right out of the box?
So I don't want people to be overwhelmed with technology. The adversary is really getting us based on basic things, basic foundational things. So there are four core things that I want you all to think about. And these come right from the Cyber Readiness Program. Number one, strong passwords. Simple, right? You would think, oh, I've got to have some big technology to help. No, strong passwords plus MFA, multi-factor authentication, number one. The second thing I want you all to think about is enabling software updates. You keep up with software updates, you're halfway done with the big challenges. Phishing training, that's the third one. And you'll hear me talk a lot about employees and your human resources being the critical element in all of this. And that's because a lot of the cyber incidents come from human error. So regular employee training is going to be really, really important. Spear phishing training is going to be really, really important. And so the last thing, I talked about 4 core things I want you to think about. The last one is secure file transfers. I mean, really, really important. If you just start with those 4 fundamental things, notice I didn't talk about anything that's big technology heavy, right? We're in this age of AI. I didn't talk about that. I talked about 4 key things because the adversary wants us to start chasing the bigger thing and not shore up those easy aspects. I want you to shore up those easy aspects, those 4 core things. And I'm telling you, you will increase your cyber readiness and your cybersecurity posture by leaps and bounds.
And I'm so glad you said that, because you know as well as I do, with through our partnership, that's what we live, eat, and breathe, are those 4 core pieces and principles going forward. So the other piece that you hit on that though, and I'd like to get your thoughts on the culture, because CRI itself, we're very focused on the human behavior aspect, and everything that you've talked about so far doesn't involve technology. It's really about the culture of an organization, the human behavior, the great example that you gave during phishing. So could you talk about like that more specifically, about some of the employee training, how a cyber leader can actually take some of this forward within their organization to create that culture of being ready?
Sure. So, you think about it a lot of times, the old days, we used to do top-down edicts, right? That fosters a workaround culture. What we need to do now is frame it from the ground up. We need ground up support. And this is not very difficult to do. The CRI has a free cyber readiness program, online resources for SMBs that they can use at your own pace, right? Make your organization much, much more secure. So already free resources available to help you build that bottom up support, that ground up support. The other thing I want to mention here is employee communications. That is going to be critical. Training materials, checklists, policy statements, things like that. Anything you can continuously, slowly feed your organization throughout the entire year to highlight it in employee communications is super, super important. The employee is the front line of defense. A lot of times people say, oh, the cybersecurity team is on the front line. No, each and every one of our employees are on the front line. The cyber readiness program focuses on human behavior, and I love that. That helps with that frontline defense. It's easy for SMBs to understand, regardless of their size, regardless of their technical expertise, and regardless of the industry sector. That cyber readiness program, those resources, online resources, easy to understand and help to build that cyber aware culture that we want. That's what we're thinking about. We're thinking about, and we've been thinking about this and working with this on our scale, the big businesses, a cyber security aware culture. We've got to make sure we don't leave our SMBs behind, and there are resources out there to help you build a cyber aware culture as well.
And you hit on some stuff that I love about Mastercard and how they're focused on small and mid-sized businesses and the resources that you make available, not just with us, but you have a trust center that's out there that has a bunch of resources. Do you want to share a little bit about the Mastercard Trust Center as well? Because that's a best practice that we want to make sure that those resources are available.
Sure, sure. You mentioned this in the very, very beginning. And of course, I'm going to plug my own podcast, Mastering Cyber. There's a link to it on the Trust Center. It's cybersecurity tips, terms, and topics for the everyday person. It's 60 seconds. So by the time you finish tying your shoe, you've already listened to a podcast episode, like easy breezy things that you can remember. The other thing I want to mention are like their policy templates. There are, policy templates, easy company policy templates, easy communication drafts and things like that. The Trust Center has so many resources. We have a relationship with a lot of other corporations that have given us free tools to add on to the Trust Center. There's a lot there. There's a lot there to unpack, and it's easy to pace yourself as you go through it.
Well, so you're highlighting some of the best practices that we want the SMBs to embrace. But in spite of all this, when you were talking about the threat landscape, something's going to happen, and they are going to still maybe, run into an incident, a cyber incident. Could you talk a little bit about what kind of steps you would recommend that a small business, medium-sized business take when a cyber incident does happen?
So, I like to think of this with two prongs. One is a preventative measure, like the one end of the NIST cybersecurity framework. The other part is the defending measure, right? I know you asked me about incidents, but we got to make sure we're ready right before the incident happens. So that's the preventative stuff. So that's, like I said, regular cyber awareness training, making sure you have policies and communicated those policies, password policy, software updates, file transfers, how to do that securely, so that when people are doing their everyday job, right, they know that it's built into the DNA of the company, those basic foundational things. Those are preventative measures. Now, when you talk about the incident, now we got to talk about defending. And the number one thing you can do is have a business plan that already includes regular incident response training, checking your backups. And when I talk about regular incident response training, I mean, from the employees to the middle managers to the senior leaders, everyone needs to know what to do and what to communicate in the case of a response. You don't want employees communicating, and they want to do the best. They want to work so hard for their companies. So they might want to share. They may just want to say, I just really want to help. But it's our responsibility to say, no, 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 no. Let's have a policy. Let's practice these things. Let's know what we want to do, so that they have regular incident response training to help clue them in on what they should and should not say, if they should or should not say anything. Those things are important, especially when you're going through an incident.
Well, you have shared so much. I love your energy level. I always love interacting with you. There's this new concept out there now, and I know Mastercard has some resources on this too, and it deals with a cyber score. And could you explain a little bit about the cyber score, and how is that impacting small and medium businesses, and what do they really need to be aware of that as we go through? Because we've talked about a lot of things that are best practices, but I think this concept of a cyber score, they really need to be aware of how that can impact them.
So I love the cyber score. Um, and it works well, but I want to make sure that we've communicated out the impact of it. Cyber score is like a credit score. If you think about it from your credit score, you're trying to buy a car, you're trying to buy a house, and people are pulling your credit, and they know the details of whether you paid on time, whether you're late, things like that. Your cyber score is the same thing. It is a window into your security posture. So we can look at the score, know about vulnerabilities, know about how you're matching up against maybe competitors in terms of your cyber posture. When businesses determine who they want to work with, they look at this score. So all the SMBs should be aware that there is a score like that on you, okay? Businesses are making decisions based on that score. So if you shore up your security, then you open yourself up for more business. You're protecting yourself at the same time. And so all in all, great return for you. But every single SMB needs to look at that score, know what your score is, know what it's saying about you, so that and it really can help you prioritize what you want to tackle first. But take those steps to look at your score, because it's going to help you improve your security posture and of course open you up for more business.
So, Dr. J, I really appreciate your time today. This is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, so I wanted to ask you if you could give our SMBs like one key. You've given them so much, but one key thing that you want them to take forward with them and practice every day when beyond Cybersecurity Awareness Month. What is that one key advice you would give them?
So the one key thing, and I say this because I know how overwhelming cybersecurity can be. It's big, right? It's big and it's heavy. And a lot of times we Google, or we do a search on different resources. And where do I find this? And where do I find that? Instead of going to your favorite search engine and searching, I would say go to the Cyber Readiness Institute, go to those online resources that I pointed to, bookmark that. Because when you have a question, if you go to that bookmark, It's going to have an answer. It's going to have a template. It's going to say what training maybe you should be, suggesting to your employees. All of that is already laid out instead of having to go through the daunting task of searching through search results. We've already consolidated that. We've even recommended tools. So it's a great resource for businesses to really have in their back pocket and write as a bookmark.
Well, I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate that one thing that you can do is be cyberready.com and bookmark that. And I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much, Dr. J.